The DJI-04 Air Unit Pro is pretty amazing, so much so at this point we can actually get rid of our action cameras. But to get the most out of this small camera, you have to modify the light going to this almost 1-inch sensor. And Freewell has given us the way to do just that with these new ND filters. So let's open this up and see how they work. Okay, so what exactly are ND filters or filters in general? Well, you can think of these as like glasses or shades for your actual camera, and that does a couple of things. One, it can actually increase the vibrancy of your image and also remove reflections from shiny objects like cars or even reflection in bodies of water like lakes or streams or even oceans. It's pretty cool and gives your image a more professional cinematic look. Now the second thing it can do is reduce the shutter speed of your camera and give you more motion blur as you're flying through a scene. Now that's pretty cool. It gives you the illusion of more speed, and that's something that we can appreciate flying FPV drones in general. Now there's also some hidden benefits, including reducing rolling shutter or some jello in the image, which we kind of see sometimes in the original 04 Air unit. So let's open up these filters and see how they look. Okay, so we have 3 separate filters here, each one doing a specific task for our camera. We'll start off here with the standard day 4 pack, and these are just standard ND filters, and these are the one that's gonna actually control the amount of light going to your sensor to give you more motion blur or a more natural look as you're flying. All right, you have this pretty cool magnetic door here. That's amazing. And then you have some QR codes in here showing you the instructions, the installation, and to learn the basics of these ND filters, as well as how to actually install them on your drone. Now the cool thing here, this one says actually here for the Avata 2, which is actually the same sensor here on the 04 Air Unit Pro. So let's get these things out. My first thing I see here is a Freewell microfiber cloth to clean the actual ND filter and your lens. And then we have the actual case here. Finally, we have some stickers here for your drone or for your toolbox. All right, so let's take a look at this case right here. And I've used their products in the past, and this thing here is a pretty nice presentation, guys. This thing has a nice case. It's magnetic. It's pretty secure in here. And you can see your 4 ND filters in here. Now we have different intensities on here depending on the environment, and that's just to control the amount of light going to your sensor. Now in a brighter environment, you do want to have a darker ND filters, and we'll demonstrate that today once we go outside and test it for ourselves. This one does have an ND8, ND16, ND32, and an ND64, which is really, really dark for really bright environments. Now, I do think I'll be using around the ND16 or ND32. We do live in a kind of bright climate here, but the 64 is for really bright environments. Think of like a beach on a nice sunny day where you have white sand. That would be the ND filter for those environments. Let's move on over to the smaller box. This one here is the ultraviolet filter here. And this one here is pretty straightforward. Different kind of presentation here. You do still get the microfiber cloth, and that's it. No stickers in this one, at least I didn't see it. And this one says UV in the front here, so pretty cool. Very customizable case here. Let's take a look at it. Now, the UV filter here has numerous purposes. Obviously, this one here can filter out UV light going to your camera, protect the sensor. But in general, people use a UV filter to actually protect the actual lens on your camera, because it's actually cheaper to replace an actual UV filter than the actual lens on your camera in case of a crash. And FPV, yes, we do have a lot of crashes. All right, last but not least, we have the Polarizer filter, and this is the one I'm most excited about. Every time I see one of these, I'm pretty geeked out. And this one here actually removes shimmer or glare from shiny surfaces like cars. I do have a lot of cars. I do film a lot of cars. So this will be the one that I'll use the most. As well, that I live in Florida, there's a lot of water, and this one here can remove the glare from the top surface of the water. Now this one here is a little bit darker than the UV filter here, so there is some neutral density in it, so it does reduce your shutter speed a little bit, but it also removes that sheen or glare from shiny surfaces. So this is the one I'm most excited about, guys. All right, so let's go outside, put these filters on the drone, and see it in action. Okay, so we're back from our flight test, and the Freewell ND filters did a really good job. Now, I did a series of 3 sets of flights, one with no ND filters, one with the ND32, and one with the Polarizer filter. Now, from a statistically and theoretical standpoint, on the first flight without any ND filters, you can see my shutter speed. It's around 1/2000th of a second. I mean, this is some really high shutter speeds. Now, I do live in a very bright climate, and today was very sunny with actually no clouds. The ISO was actually at the lowest, around 100, which is really good for filming, but that's the lowest value here, and it's trying to compensate for all the bright light on a sunny day. Now, as you can see, it's also trying to do that with the shutter speed as well, 1/2000th of a second. It's really crazy, and that's gonna lead to some jittery motions, especially when you're flying, and just decrease the image quality of your sensor or your image. Anyways, we took off, did a normal flight, and as you can see, the image looks pretty good. DJI has a really good algorithm, and the exposure is pretty good. Now, where it's gonna suffer is in the motion blur. Now, I did a circuit around my park, and I got pretty low to the ground, and there's literally no motion blur in the grass. I paused the image multiple times, and the thing just stands still. You can see every blade of grass, which is really good for the sensor, but it doesn't give you that higher quality camera look. I was also able to fly over the water, and the image looks pretty good. If you really can't tell, if you're just a regular person shooting FPV videos, it's no big deal, but you can see all the reflection and shimmer in the actual top surface of the lake or pond there. Overall, the image looks pretty good, but it just doesn't have that pop. Now, I did fly all my flights here in the flat profile, the D-Log-M, and I did have to grade it later on, but I wanted to get the most out of this sensor. The next flight was with the ND32. Now, this is not the strongest ND. We do also have an ND64 for really bright days. And as you can see in the camera settings, the shutter speed has reduced dramatically. Now we're around to 1/200th of a second. In fact, this might be just a little bit too dark because you can also see the ISO is also bumping up. So the way how DJI kind of does their exposure is by using the ISO and the shutter speed to get the perfect exposure. Now, I probably could have put this thing into manual, put the ISO into 100, and that would also lower the shutter speed even further. But 1/200 isn't really bad compared to the 1/2000. As you can see, the shutter speed is dramatically lower. I did take off, and the image was a lot better, a lot smoother. It looks more natural to the eye, guys. Now, doing that same circuit around my park, flying low to the ground, there was a lot more motion blur in the grass, especially the trees and the fence as I flew through that little corridor right there. It looks so much better, guys. The image looks a little bit softer, a little bit more professional. So I was very pleased with that look overall. Last but not least, we did a flight with the Polarizer filter, the one I'm most excited about. And as you can see in the camera settings, the actual shutter speed went up a little bit more to around 1/640 seconds. And it's a little bit higher compared to the ND32. And that kind of makes sense because that PL filter isn't as dark as the ND32. So there's more light going to the sensor. What you do gain though is that nice, sharp and vivid image. If you look at the skies, it looks really, really nice. When you're flying over water, when I did do that pattern around again, the water looks really nice and clear and calm, almost like a cinematic camera. Now, we don't really realize this with our eyes, but a lot of surfaces on the ground, whether it be some, say like the playground, cars, poles, anything that's in the area that's reflecting a light, this Polarizer filter is going to just kind of calm that down a little bit, reduce the reflection. So the image looks overall very professional. The skies look a lot more blue, a lot more vivid. Now there's no clouds. I wish there was some clouds out there to have a little bit of a contrast in there, but it looks really, really nice, guys. A nice filmic look. Now, even with this higher shutter speed, there was still some motion blur as I flew low to the ground to that corridor. It looks really nice, guys. So these ND filters by Freewell did a really good job. You have one for each kind of environment. You have all your NDs right here. You have your UV filter, which is a good protection. I have it on the drone right now, so if I'm gonna fly this in, say, indoors, which is a 5-inch drone, I won't use it indoors, then I am gonna protect the lens on my camera, guys. So let me know what you think about the image of these Freewell filters. If you're interested in these, I'll leave links down below so you can pick one up. Now, if you wanna install O4 in your own personal drone, I did that on this Mario 5 Dead Cat frame. I've done a video on this and I'll leave a link above and below so you can take a look at it. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.